Enugu's literary community came alive recently when fellow poets, writers, journalists, art connoisseurs, and the general public gathered at the Center for Memories in Chetandi Igbo in Independence Layout, Enugu, to welcome James Eze's new book titled Goosebumps. It was a lively evening that even nature herself had chosen to bless with a lovely weather. But there was silent poetry in the choice of the venue, which holds the collective memory of a people for the presentation of a book which aspires to live in the memory of the people for a long, long time. The evening took a deep breath and exhaled when Ihanye Iboko, curator of the center, took the microphone for the opening remarks.
What we're witnessing today is not just a book club, it's a special edition of the book club session, and we're here to witness the unveiling of a collection of poems by Mr. James Eze, 50 love poems that will give all of us goosebumps.
Debonair singer Mastermind set the mood for the evening when he invoked the atmosphere with amazing rendition of poems from Eze's body of work that had been set to song.
We were drunk in memories of the last night when you had my apple and you took a bite. Yeah, we were spread on the side, back into a dream where no one we hear you scream. Our love is so supreme, that songbirds singing the lullabies. Our love is now earth of night. Yeah. So baby, this all has come to stay. No matter what long it's got to say, because the silver lining behind the clouds, I'm singing all the years around, baby. I'm singing all the years around.
The event began with a thought-provoking address by the chairman of the occasion, Prince Ike Choke, Group Managing Director of Afrinvest West Africa Limited.
I am delighted to be here this afternoon for two reasons. One is that this event clearly demonstrates the resilience of the human spirit. It's a thing of joy that literary creativity is still flourishing in the region as traumatized as the southeast of Nigeria. The other reason is that I feel elated that even in the midst of incredible odds, Enugu has continued to live up to its profile as the cultural capital of the southeast. And we have the Center of Memories and some notable book club members to thank for this. I thank you all for your tenacity in maintaining this venue. Please keep the fire burning. A society that has no value for books is on its way to the grave. Throughout history, retrograde societies have always attempted to hold the people down by burning books. May Nigeria never get to a point where book burning is considered a tool of possible social control. Pioneer poets in the English language once told a fascinating story of how even the Biafran War could not completely stamp out the natural inclination of the human spirit to artistic expression. Okara recalls that writers like Chinua Achebe, Christopher Kibo, Obiora Udala, and other first-generation writers who found themselves on the Biafran side of the Civil War usually held poetry evenings in the heat of the war, which they called the Uba Party in Enugu. Indeed, it is a well-known fact that Achebe and people jointly established a publishing company in Enugu in the middle of that war. So we must never let the current violent wind blowing across the southeast snuff out the flame of creative ingenuity in Enugu and indeed the entire region. Our dear country Nigeria is at the crossroads. Year on year, the news out of Nigeria is doom and gloom. Strangely though, at no time in history has Nigeria been loved across the globe as she is today. That is because of the extraordinary creativity of Nigerian artists. In the past 1 year alone, Nigerian artists have headlined important events like the World Cup, the European Champions League finals, the burial of the Queen of England, and other major events across the globe. Yes, Nigerian musicians have totally repositioned Nigeria in the eyes of the world. So you must say that perception is reality. And if our political leaders are wise enough to create a enabling environment, Nigeria could well be on its way to becoming the new cultural capital of the world.
Casting a searing glance at the southeast region, Choke expressed admiration with the fact that the general insecurity in the region had not stamped out the desire for creative expression. He praised the resilience of the Nigerian creative spirit and commended Eze for following the great tradition of literary excellence established by some of Nigeria's canonized writers.
Our own James Eze has gathered us here in a modern-day reenactment of the Oma Party to welcome his new book. James is rightly following the tradition of excellence established by these great forerunners. His first book, Dispossessed, is sold in leading online stores across the world. The book also impressed many literary judges enough to win the Poetry Prize of the Association of Nigerian Authors in 2020. While I've not read Goosebumps from cover to cover, I have read reviews of it that suggest that James has blessed us with another seminal piece of literature. So, thank you, James. I've read some of the poetry already.
Shortly afterwards, the evening took a trenchant tone during an engaging interactive session in which two established poets were requested to join the author of Goosebumps in sharing their experiences of the creative process.
But I have a way of doing mine. Sometimes something strikes me, maybe a thought or an idea, I write it down. Another one comes, I write it on a fresh page. Another one comes, I write it on a fresh page. Another one might come and it will look similar to the first one, I'll add it there. You see? So I so much have to believe in image. Whenever I write poetry, I see poetry as image. When you read it, it creates this mental picture of what I want you to exchange. So that is my own perception of poetry. And I also have the perception of a rhythmical kind of poetry, the use of alliterations and sometimes rhymes. They beautify poetry.
People that write poetry, I think you can agree with me that it's one of the forms of literature that's it's not like you set out to write poetry. You don't say, okay, I want to write a story about the Biafra War. I want to make fiction out of it. It's something that just strikes you. Sometimes I have in my phone, I have like a notepad in my phone. So sometimes I'm looking at how the environment is today. I feel like I want to talk a little bit about the environment. I might not have exactly what I want to write. And I just put down the title in my note, hoping to come back. Because once that idea leaves you, like it starts driving you crazy. Oh, I can't even remember what I really wanted to write. So I can't say that there's a straightforward process in writing poetry. It just strikes you, and I think once it strikes you, you just get to put it down because it's a message that you really want to share.
The fascinating conversation that followed soon dovetailed into insightful exchanges on poetry and its changing faces in a fast-evolving world. The poets took turns to interrogate the growing popularity of prose poetry and the spoken word art.
this kind of prose poetry is a kind of poetry that, anyway, I don't blame the writer because they want to be published in magazines. And these magazines have this flair for stories. So you must tell them stories for them to publish your magazine. So why not write a prose? Why not give us a short story of what you're trying to say? Because poetry has a tradition. It has a tradition of reading, it has a tradition of writing, it has a tradition of images.
I agree with Leonard, and I must commend Leonard for being courageous enough to address the big elephant in the room. The kind of poetry that we read today, poetry that people publish, we see a lot of that online. Sometimes these works make us question what we know of poetry already, because they don't conform to all the rules of that genre. You read a very tightly woven short story, an imaginative short story full of poetic language, and it is passed off as poetry. And it leaves some of us who stick to the tradition of poetry, wondering whether the carpet has been pulled from under our feet without our own knowledge.
And still in poetry, you get things like poetic license. Even when you write works that people can accredit to poetic license, it has to make sense. So for whatever we do as poets, as people that are growing to master the art, I think it's very important to respect the structure, respect the culture, their canons.
When the maverick poet, essayist, and journalist Uzo Maxim Uzatu picked up the microphone for the book review, the audience had no inkling of what was about to hit it. Indeed, Uzatu was in his element as he swiftly delved into Goosebumps to offer remarkable insights that left goosebumps on the audience.
James Ngwu Eze remarkably had a distinguished debut with his 2019 collection, Dispossessed. When that first collection made its appearance, I had to borrow W.B. Yeats' phrase, "A terrible beauty is born," to celebrate the landmark offering. James Eze's Dispossessed served up a tonic that got all two lovers of sublime poetry astonishingly possessed. One had genuine reasons to fear that James Eze has set a standard too high to match in his follow-up collection, given what had happened to forerunner lyrical poets. Today, James Eze is stepping up with his second collection, Goosebumps, a selection of 50 love poems. Poetry, to borrow from Shakespeare's ambition in Julius Caesar, should be made of stellar stuff. Let's get serious, because James Eze in Goosebumps is the real deal. A poet well armed with consummate metaphors, music, and media to go the distance in poetry. In the 50 love poems that make up Goosebumps, James Eze offers a passionate ideology of love as the fulcrum of life and living. Reading the love poems packaged in Goosebumps, I am moved to share company with the renowned poets of the canon, such as John Keats, John Donne, Lord Byron, Shelley, and P.E. Cummins, who incidentally shares a style of writing in lower keys with James Ngwu Eze. On the Nigerian front, James Eze's love poems makes one to remember and recall the Udala's 2006 collection entitled Tender Moments, Love Poems.
Uzatu demonstrated a rare depth, an astonishing range of scholarship, and an uncanny familiarity with its subject matter that made the audience reach for copies of the book at the end of the event.
Incidentally, one of the poems in Goosebumps, entitled Hourglass, has already been set to music. Let me just read out the first stanza, as my voice is too rowdy for the lofty music hearing. Hourglass, you stood in magic, soaking up glances from splitting hearts. You were the subject of unresolved battles, the mystery of unoccupied castles. The landscape of discovery that James Eze crafts with the musicality of his poetry somewhat reprises the life work of the revolutionary musician Bob Marley, who is posited as doing prosthetic music, when in fact the Jamaican legend wrote no love songs. There is a dimension of Udala being celebrated for his music, only to end up winning the Nobel Prize in literature. Making meaning of the sound of James Eze in Goosebumps calls for comparative synergies. James Ngwu Eze in Goosebumps deserves celebration for delivering abstract lines as the modern complex, quite jealous in his ceaseless pursuit of captivating entrapment. Finally, James Ngwu Eze ranks quite high in the canon of Nigeria's most prolific poets. Now that he has written a second collection things through Goosebumps, there is no limit to what he can achieve through a total devotion to poetry. He is definitely sui generis. Thank you.
Uzatu's majestic delivery was quickly followed by the unveiling of the book.
Thank you so much.
Finally, the author of Goosebumps, who only 4 years ago had announced his arrival on the literary scene with Dispossessed, sat down for a conversation on the book with Chukwudi Utaze, who was also the master of ceremonies at the event. And when the event finally ended, the eclectic crowd that had gathered to welcome Goosebumps was unanimous in the view that when artists walk under the dazzling rays of inspiration, they leave monuments.